"Pretend you're my millionaire," she whispered, gripping the sleeve of a stranger's suit like her life depended on it. The lobby smelled like espresso and panic. Security guards were already closing in. Her ex-boss, furious, loud and smug, had just called her a liar in front of everyone, so she did what desperate people do. She begged. "5 minutes," she said, voice trembling. "Just pretend you're my date." The stranger paused, looked at her tear-smudged face, the trembling hands clutching a paper resume. Then slowly he smiled and said, "Sure, but you might regret it. New York in springtime, cold enough for coats, hot enough for ambition." The story begins at Varnell Tower, a glass skyscraper that sliced through clouds and egos alike. Inside, the Varnell Group, one of the most elite investment firms in the city, Mara Jensen, 26, was not elite. She was the unpaid intern who refilled coffee pods, edited PowerPoint decks until midnight, and smiled through every insult. Her mother's medical bills were piling up. She needed a real paycheck, a promotion, a chance. But in the Varnell ecosystem, kindness didn't rise. Connections did. Her manager, Gretchen Varnell, niece of the CEO, was a master of public cruelty. She wore diamonds like armor and fired people for sport. Then there was Evan Rourke, 32, the firm's mysterious new consultant. The staff whispered he was some tech entrepreneur who'd sold his startup for millions and was slumming it in consulting for fun. He didn't flaunt it. He was quiet, observant, with that irritatingly calm confidence that made people talk slower around him. When Mara spilled coffee on his shoes during her first week, he just said, "Good aim," and walked off with a grin. She'd laughed. It was the only laugh she'd had that week, but laughter didn't pay rent. So when Gretchen humiliated Mara in front of a client, calling her a charity case who couldn't afford her own dignity, something inside Mara cracked. She needed to expose the truth about how interns were treated, about Gretchen's fake invoices. But she couldn't do it from outside. She needed to go undercover, and fate, it seemed, had already sent her an unlikely ally, the stranger in the lobby who just pretended to be her millionaire. The humiliation scene replayed in Mara's head like static. Gretchen had accused her of snooping into client records after Mara caught a billing error, an error Gretchen caused. The punishment, public firing, right there in the lobby. That's when she saw Evan, suit sharp, expression unreadable, standing beside the reception desk. He looked out of place, like a chess player at a checkers match, when Gretchen sneered, "Nobody decent would hire you, Mara," she snapped. She pointed at Evan. "He would." A silence fell. Evan raised an eyebrow. "Would I?" "Absolutely," Mara bluffed. "We've been working together." "He knows I'm worth it," Gretchen laughed. "Oh, really? Then where's your millionaire now?" And Mara, cornered, shaking, begged, "Please, just pretend for 5 minutes." Something flickered in his eyes. Amusement, curiosity, maybe pity. "Fine," he said, stepping closer. "Mara, you're late for our meeting." He looped his arm through hers, turned to Gretchen and added, "You might want to double-check your compliance records before mocking other people's work ethic." Then he led Mara out, calmly, like they'd done this 100 times, outside. She sagged against the marble wall, half laughing, half crying. "I can't believe I just did that." Evan handed her his business card. "Rourke Enterprises. You did fine," he said. "But if you're going to lie, you should at least pick someone less famous." That night, Mara couldn't sleep. She searched Evan Rourke. Pages of results. Sold his tech company for $480 million, donated half to education funds, went off-grid, rumored to be scouting startups anonymously, and now she'd roped him into a lie. But when he called the next morning, she almost didn't answer. "Still pretending I'm your millionaire?" he teased, she stammered. "About that, thank you. I owe you coffee, or 5, he chuckled. "Tell you what, you want to fix something at that firm? I could use an assistant for a few weeks." "Call it even," her mind raced. "Inside the Varnell Group again? From a different door?" "Yes," she said before her courage faded. Her plan formed. work under him, gather proof of Gretchen's corruption, clear her name and maybe, just maybe, earn a real future. Evan, of course, had no idea she was still investigating, and she had no idea he'd been testing the firm too, for a merger that could expose Gretchen's misuse of funds. Their alliance was half accident, half destiny. The comedy began immediately. Mara tripped over her own desk chair, sent a tray of lattes flying, mispronounced synergy in front of investors. Evan only grinned. You're single-handedly redefining chaos management. Her running gag became her incompetence, losing pens, sending half-written emails, mistaking confidential files for lunch menus. But beneath the laughter, she was learning, watching, gathering evidence, and for the first time, she wasn't scared. One night the office was quiet, except for the hum of city lights. Mara found Evan on the balcony, jacket off, tie loose. "You ever regret any of this?" she asked. "The money, the pressure?" He leaned on the railing. "I regret believing money made me untouchable." He told her about his sister, how she'd built a charity for single mothers and died of leukemia before seeing it succeed. How he'd thrown himself into work to avoid grief. "That's why I donate," he said. "It's not virtue. It's guilt with good PR." Mara's throat tightened. "My mom's sick too," she said softly. "I'm just trying to keep her in treatment." "I'll do anything, even pretend to be someone I'm not." He smiled sadly. "You don't need to pretend. You just need a fair chance." The silence between them felt charged. Then a breeze lifted her hair and she realized he was looking at her, really looking. "Thank you," she whispered. "For what?" "For not laughing when I tripped over the copier," he laughed. "That was spectacular. You managed to unplug 3 machines at once." And just like that, the tension broke into warmth. It happened 2 days later, during a charity gala. Mara, temporarily disguised as his assistant, had to pose as his date again for appearances. She wore a borrowed dress, shoes a size too small, and nerves too big to hide. When the music slowed, he offered his hand. "5 minutes?" "5," she whispered. They danced under chandeliers. The world melted to murmurs and violins. He leaned closer. "You still shaking?" "Only when you look at me like that." "Like what?" "Like I'm not pretending." He kissed her, soft, uncertain, like testing fate, and for one impossible moment it felt real. The truth exploded a week later. Gretchen stormed into a board meeting waving photos. Mara with Evan at the gala, labeled Gold Digger Scheme. She lied to all of us. Gretchen screamed. "She's manipulating our investor." Evan froze. "Investor?" The board whispered. Mara's stomach dropped. She hadn't told him. He didn't know she was still gathering proof for HR. He turned to her. "You used me?" "I was trying to stop her," she said. "She's been stealing, falsifying reports, but it was too late. The trust shattered. He left the room, and she was escorted out again." For 3 days, Mara disappeared. Then a video appeared online. Mara standing outside Varnell Tower, holding a folder. "Calm, composed, I lied," she said. But only once, to protect the truth. She listed dates, amounts, screenshots. She named Gretchen's shell accounts, her fake reimbursements, her bullying complaints. She cited witnesses, every intern who'd been silenced. "I don't want pity," she finished. "I just want dignity back, for everyone who worked too hard for too little." The clip went viral overnight. By Monday, Gretchen was suspended. The board launched an audit. Evan watched from his penthouse, eyes unreadable. Then he smiled faintly. Took her 5 minutes to beg. Took her 5 days to change everything. He called HR. Reinstate Mara Jensen permanently. When she returned, the office applauded. But she didn't look for Evan. Not yet. She wanted to fix the system first. Meanwhile, Evan stepped back. He refused interviews, rejected mergers, and quietly launched a foundation, the Truth Table, dedicated to workplace integrity and fair pay. At its first event, he wasn't the guest of honor. Mara was. She'd written an exposé titled 5 Minutes of Courage. It trended across business media, earning her a staff position and a book deal. when she walked on stage, wearing a simple white blazer instead of designer gowns. Evan watched from the back row. She didn't mention him by name, but when she said, "Sometimes the person you pretend to be shows you who you really are," he knew, and he applauded the loudest. 2 weeks later, he found her sitting in a small cafe in Soho. She was typing on her laptop when she saw him and froze. "You're supposed to be busy being all mysterious," she said with a half-smile. He laughed softly. "I've retired from pretending." There was a short, quiet pause between them. "I'm sorry," she said, "for lying to you, for dragging you into all of it." He shook his head gently. "And I'm sorry for walking away. But from now on, no more pretending, okay?" She smiled. "Okay." He slid a cup of coffee toward her. The sleeve on it said "Fresh Start Roast." She raised an eyebrow and teased, "All right, but if we start over, there's one rule. No suits allowed." "Just aprons," he grinned. "Deal, but only if you stop spilling drinks," she laughed. "No promises." Right then, she accidentally spilled a little coffee again, and everyone in the cafe started laughing and clapping, because somehow that small mess had brought them full circle to where it all began. A few months later, they opened the Truth Table Cafe, a cozy place that was part coffee shop and part workspace for people building fair-paying businesses. She took care of the cafe and daily work. He handled the money and investments. They shared everything as partners. On the menu, they added fun names that told their story. Forgiveness latte. Bitter-sweet, but worth it. Fresh Start Roast, brewed without lies. 5-minute mocha. Life-changing in one sip. As for Gretchen, she was gone from their lives. She started selling emotional detox courses online, and they never talked about her again. One evening, after closing the cafe, he smiled and said, "You know, you never actually asked me for forever." She looked at him and smiled back. "I didn't have to," she said softly. "You stayed." He took her hand, kissed it gently and whispered, "Pretend you're my millionaire again." She laughed and teased, "Only if you're my intern this time." They both smiled, because this time there were no lies, no pretending. Just love, honesty, and a brand new start. And that was Pretend You're My Millionaire, the girl who begged for 5 minutes and got forever. What would you have done in Mara's place? Could you trust someone who saved your dignity with a lie? Tell me in the comments if you loved this story of truth, second chances, and a little spilled coffee. Hit like, subscribe, and ring the bell so you don't miss the next one. Because sometimes the best love stories start with a disaster and end with a fresh start roast.